All right, guys, welcome. This is a live music production session. I'm Zach Norman. Uh, Beyond Our Eyes is my musician alias for music. So today we're going to be looking at a brand new song that I've been working on this past week. I'm going to go behind the scenes of what I do for drum programming, post production, editing, and mixing and mastering. I'm going to be going over everything that I do in my process. So, right now we have FL Studio open. I'm going to go ahead and open my project. Right now, this is just a working title and it may stay, but it's called Venture the Gateway. And this is more or less, you could consider it another song for the Ancient series. So right now, all we have going are our drums. We have this bass track that's just temporary, and we have this synth that was also just temporary for the writing process. So if you go, and this is something that I do every now and again when I'm in the middle of writing. I will use this, bass virtual instrument and just kind of lay out what the song is going to be. Let's go ahead and get to wherever the hell it starts. Right over here. So this is essentially, I'm actually going to turn this off and this. This is essentially what it's going to sound like in the beginning. Sounds like shit. But this is, keep in mind, this is just for writing purposes. This is the only reason why I laid this out. Deadly Bacon, what's up, man? Welcome. This is essentially what this riff sounds like. So it starts with this kind of breakdown groove with some triplets and some other just various notes in there. Mix it up in the second half. Then we come into this riff. And then this is as far as I got, because once I got to this point, I was like, fuck it, I'll just record it. And yeah. And so with the drums, let's listen to what they sound like. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. I'm using Steven Slate drums. Okay. So starting from the same point, this is kind of what this sounds like. Now, these drums are very basic starter just to get the recording going. So there's not a whole lot going on. So let's go back and listen to that together. And there would be some ambient leads in the background of that part. And then it goes into another breakdown. But essentially what we're going to do later is, once we finish editing the guitars, the leads, and the bass, the real bass, we're going to kind of export just a test track of all that, bring it in here, and then we're going to tweak the drums to be a little more lively and composed versus basic as it is now. So that is all to show here for now. So now we're going to go over to, yes, Audacity. This is just for recording. I use Audacity for recording still, and I'm sure there's other programs that I could be using, like Reaper or Logic or something, but this is what I'm used to. There's certain things in the editing process that I do in here that's just, I guess, easier for me. The only downfall is that it's a little laggy, but we will make do. So this is my Audacity file. It is very fucking slow. Right now, what we're looking at are guitar tracks. These are all, at the moment, very mixed around. There are some, your main guitar parts in here. There are some leads strewn about in here. I believe this is bass right here. This is a lead right here. So this is kind of what it looks like in the early stages of my Audacity file. All kinds of crap going on. So let's. Oh, you know what I should talk about? If y'all don't know, I'm using a Line 6 Pod HD 500X to record guitars, bass, not vocals yet. I'm actually still using my UX2 for vocals because it's my 500X, as it turns out, does not support mics that use phantom power, which sucks. So I got to get a new mic. I know. So I'm going to play these just kind of isolated for you so you can hear what they sound like. This is a lead part. I'm going to make sure that's... This is going to be in the very beginning, and it's going to build up to the breakdown. And I'm going to throw in more stuff in between, but I just haven't gotten to that part yet, but we might today. Okay. And then we have, I believe this is bass also. Okay. Accidentally gave y'all a tease there. But we're going to go back and kind of listen to the first beginning seconds all together. I'm going to show you guitars now. Oh, they're way up here. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. This is that breakdown in the guitars. Now, this tone that I'm using, you can actually download from my website. Just go to beyondoureyes.com/tones. And I'll actually just go ahead and pull it up for you so you can see. Bear with me just a second. For those of you just joining, welcome to my music production live stream. Bam, there it is. I'm going to be going over what I do in the drum programming process. I don't know why it does that. Sorry. I got to figure that out, but whenever you go to that page, that auto plays. I don't know if it's just me. It's got to be. I'll fix that later, but here's that tone that I'm using right now in this song. It's free to download directly from the Line 6 page. Bam. Moving on. Okay, so let's listen to the beginning of this song with everything going on. The basic drums, the guitars, and the leads and the bass. All right, so that's what we're working with. So everything is already recorded. So the next step from here would be to edit the audio. And what exactly I mean by that is we're going to take these guitar tracks, mainly the ones that are choppy, like in these breakdowns, or have some like silent bits, like in that first riff. There's some parts that the guitar is kind of choppy. I don't know. I don't have a better uh, adjective for that. So we're gonna zoom in here, very freaking slow. Oh my god. Bam. So you can hear. We're gonna play this isolated just one more time. So if you're listening closely, there are some little noises in there that we don't want. We want these guitars to sound tighter and more polished. So that's what we're going to be working on. Like, we want them to be really fucking tight. So essentially what I'm going to do, and I have hotkeys on my keyboard set up for this, but we're basically going to be selecting these parts. We're going to be, I have a hotkey for this, but we're basically going to generate silence. Yes. Okay, so that cleaned that up. But then what we're also going to do is bring that selection over, and we're going to fade it out. So that, because if you don't do that, there will be like a little like clicking noise at the end of it, like cutting out, and we don't want that really, so we fade it out. Anyways, so I'm going to be doing that throughout this whole intro breakdown. It is tedious, but the result is absolutely worth it. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to butt this up next to my guitar or drum track. That way, it's kind of easier to see where exactly I need to slim it down. So just bear with me. By the way, while I'm doing these boring parts, if anybody wants to kind of show me something that they've been working on, I'd be down to listen to it and offer feedback if you want, or just play it. I don't care. Let's do it. All right. So we got our drum track right here. We got our guitars right here. So now we can kind of get a better idea. This is a 2 part right there. This is 4. I can tell that this is where the snare comes in. So I'm going to be taking this part right here. And I'm going to be adding silence. Like I said, I have a hotkey set for this just to make it faster. Holy shit, this is slow. And then we're going to be fading that out. And since I've already done it before, I can just hit Control R and it'll repeat the last effect that I did, which in this case was the fade out. So, boom. And we're going to keep doing this up until the end of this breakdown, basically. I guess while we're waiting on this, I can play something else that I've done. But maybe in a moment. Like I said, this is a very tedious process, but the result is you get tight guitars that sound killer. And I will do the same thing with the bass, and I will actually show off as far as making sure things are aligned the way you want them. Because what I've started doing recently, and you've noticed, I have a whole bunch of guitar tracks kind of spattered everywhere. I've been recording in sections. So I recorded this intro breakdown first, and then I move on to the next riff until there's a place where I can, cut it in a way that it'd be seamless and you wouldn't know. Because you want your recordings to sound as perfect as possible. Is it unethical? I don't know, but as far as recordings go, you want them to sound as perfect as possible. It's not about, oh, I can play the whole song perfect in one go. Save that for live playing, which I'm not a live player. I'm going to be playing this boss battle theme from Final Fantasy 2 or 4. It's known as both. This cover that I've done recently, just while we're doing this. I'm going to have it low in the background. This cover was so fun to do, because I had been thinking about it for a while, and this is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. So it is a lot of fun to record this cover, and just with like the blast beats, and oh man, I love it. And if y'all have any questions about anything that I'm doing or anything else really, just feel free to stop me and let me know. And we're just dragging over to the next part of this breakdown. About right there. You don't want to cut too much off, otherwise it will sound like obviously cut. You just want it to sound tight, not cut, if that makes sense. Think of it as like I'm applying manual noise gate, and the reason I could set my noise gate higher to where it is more choppy, like I'm trying to do here, but what I've learned is that it actually takes away from the gain, and we don't want that. We don't want our guitars to sound like they don't have enough gain to them, and noise gate can do that if you set the threshold too high. Now we're listening to another cover that I've done, Dire Dire Docks from Super Mario 64. Hey Ivan, thanks for joining. This live stream will be saved, so you can refer back to it later if you like. And then Deadly Bacon asks, would you say this is your favorite cover? If we're talking about the Final Fantasy II boss battle cover, it's up there. I think the favorite one that I've done so far is Wandering Flame. And for some reason, I don't have an MP3 on this computer. I don't know. I was looking and it's like, this is the only one that's not on here. Why? So I must have saved it to my Mac and then deleted it or something. I don't know. But yeah, that one's my favorite. It's just like such a relaxing, like the original tune. It's just so relaxing, and then like just adding that twist on it is super fun to do. And for anybody just joining in, just to recap what exactly I'm doing here, I'm cleaning up my guitars to make them sound tighter. Think of it as manually applying noise gate. It's a tedious process, but the result is absolutely worth it. Oh shit, I fucked up. So what I'm doing here is you can see, this is all noise that we don't want. So we're silencing it. And then we're fading out the edges, or rather this edge, so that it doesn't sound chopped off. Because if you don't do that, you can kind of hear like this click noise, and you don't want that. I'm actually going to take this a little further forward, right there. I will have to actually, going back to what I showed off in FL Studio, how I had that virtual bass instrument with the guitar part. I've actually done the same thing with this cover of Dire Dire Docks, only it's a little more extravagant. Did a little more with it. So I'll definitely show that off here soon. Because I had like the bass. I actually used Slayer for the guitars just to kind of simulate what I was going for before I moved to recording. Okay, and I believe we're almost through this part. So bear with me. You know what? I actually like this one too. And now I'm playing the Institute menu theme from Perfect Dark. This one was actually also fun to do. I actually want to redo it because it was before I got my new interface. I don't know what happened. Like I zoomed out or something. Shit. Okay, here we go. Now this is... Sorry, this is the next part. I don't know how I got so flip turned upside down. I gotta go back down here. Here we go. Zoom back in. Right there, that's a snare hit. So we're gonna end it and just completely cut it off right there. Oh, I missed some. That's okay. We're gonna fade out that little bit. Okay, now we're gonna listen to what we have going now with this. I'm actually going to mute the bass because I haven't done what I did here with the bass yet. So let's just listen to... Oh, you know, I can just solo it. What am I doing? We're going to solo this. Just see how it sounds. So this is just drums and guitar. So you can tell right there, that's, if you were listening earlier, that sounds much more tight and just awesome. Love it. Okay. And I can actually show off another part of this process over here. Oh, sorry. Because on some of these guitar parts, I've already done this because it's so tedious and I don't want to spend the whole stream doing just that. Because it is boring. So we're going to go here. This is another one that we've done. Right here. So this is another breakdown section after a sort of a chorus. So we're going to solo that and the drums only, and just see how that sounds. So if you've been following my SoundCloud, I've actually posted a that breakdown before. It was just that breakdown though, and it had like a kind of like a spacey ambient lead over it. I'm bringing it back in this song, so I'm finally doing something with it. So that's cool. All right, now we're gonna unsolo all this stuff. You know what? It's probably even slower than I'm streaming. That's probably what it is. It's never usually this slow. Or it could be that my computer sucks. One of the two. That's next on my list. New PC. With my wife's permission. Okay. So we actually need to come back over here and clean up the bass as well so that they match. Now we're listening to Fear Factory. This is another cover that I've done. This is from Donkey Kong Country. Oh, I didn't mean to solo that. Okay. And I had actually, earlier, I had adjusted this level of the bass guitar to be a little lower, which we are going to do, but and what I did there is I just took that track and hit mix and render. The only reason I do that is to bring it to the bottom of my list, I guess you could call it. Because at the very bottom of my list, I have what I was just working on. But as you can see, my bass guitar track has even more noise that we need to clean up. Which is not a problem because we can use our guitars that we just cleaned up as sort of a template to know exactly where, because you do want them to line up. So now we know exactly where it needs to be silenced. Whoops. Feel free to stop me if there's any questions at all about literally anything. This bass tone is actually free to download as well from our website. Just go to beyondoureyes.com/tones. I actually made this bass tone trying to replicate, fuck, I know I'm gonna say it wrong, but Absalom by Periphery. I was like spending hours trying to replicate that tone, and I know it's not perfect. Somebody actually showed me a tone that was even closer, and I didn't know this, but because I'm not a bass player really, I have a bass guitar obviously, but I don't actually, I didn't like take lessons to play bass or something. I can't play with my fingers. It's really hard. But yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, so somebody had shown me a tone where somebody had actually used a guitar amp in cab with a bass to get that tone. It actually sounds pretty authentic. I was like, cool. But I still think the tone I've made is decent. So. Again, for anybody just joining, cleaning up my guitars and my bass to sound tight. Just basically getting rid of this noise in between, like that. Just cutting it out. And then fading out that end part so it doesn't sound cut off, it just sounds tightly played. So Deadly Bacon asks, "How did I come up with Beyond Our Eyes? What's the story behind it?" I was like, so my name before this was actually Death Calypse, like DETHK ellipse, and I changed it to Beyond Our Eyes because the thing that I was going for was like, looks can be deceiving. And don't judge a book by its cover. That sort of thing is where it came from. I guess because like when I was younger, I kind of felt like, I don't know. I guess I was like during an emo phase or something where I was like, nobody understands me. And I guess that could have also inspired the name and be like, if only people knew what I was capable of, and yeah, that's kind of how it started. Been running with it ever since 2010. I actually made a meme about that. If beyond our eyes is music, what's beyond our ears? With like the dinosaur in the green background. Just pondering. This song was actually, this Fear Factory cover was actually also really fun to do. 'Cause I sometimes I'm like, I don't want to look up what else is out there because I'm sure there'll be something better than what I'm putting out as far as like video game covers go. There's actually one of Aquatic Ambience. I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, let me just pull up my phone because y'all definitely have to check out this guy's cover that he did of Aquatic Ambience from Donkey Kong Country. It's really good. It's better than mine for sure. Give me just a minute. Shite. You have to look by song. Oh, I get past it. Justin Spalding. Search up Aquatic Ambience Justin Spalding. His cover is phenomenal. It's really good. And then I'll go ahead and play my cover. Which is actually, I originally did this cover like years ago. And then I redid it. And with the new one, it's a little more electronic and ambient and better, I think. And then there are some differences aside from that. Like little, I don't know what to call it, like flourishes. Just like added notes, like, cause I have those like tight playing notes. I guess when it gets to it, I'll point it out, but. Okay, that's the end of that breakdown. Yes, such a relief. Because I know this is a boring part. Okay, so now we're gonna play this. I'm gonna turn the bass down because it is too loud. So I'm gonna play the beginning of this breakdown again with everything going on. Now that we've chopped the guitars and made them tighter, this is how it sounds. Kablams. Okay, now that's done. And we're actually going to be something I also do to save time. I have this breakdown repeating twice towards the end right here. So all I'm going to be doing is copying and pasting this section and putting it over here twice because there's no reason to record that again when we've already put in all that work to chop it up and make it sound pretty. Okay, so there's one more part in here, and that's the riff following that breakdown that we're going to do. We just need to clean it up, and it's right after this. So especially in that, the sliding of my fingers on the strings are especially prominent. We want to clean that up. We don't like that. We want it to sound tight. Tight. So, I believe that guitar track is up here. Somewhere. It's thinking. Oh boy, this is slow. Or am I already at the top? Oh, well, shit. Sorry. Is this it right here? I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and mix that. So I have, when I record guitars, I record twice. I pan one track to the left side, one to the right side, so you get full stereo sound. Because mono sounds like shit. I'm thinking back to that Kitchen of Metal video that I did years ago. Oh my god. Don't look that up. I gotta get rid of that. How embarrassing. So yeah, I'm gonna play it one more time solo so you can hear the sliding even more. Right there. Lots of sliding. It's no good. So, I'm going to start here. We're going to clean up this very beginning. We're just going to about right there. We're just going to take that and I hit the wrong thing. We're going to silence it. So we don't want that. And you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and... Wait, did it not do it? No. That's weird. I'm going to duplicate this track. That way we can compare it before and after. I'm actually going to put on another cover. This is going to be Zora's Domain. Specifically from Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's the cover that I did. And I had a lot of fun with this one too, just doing like the vocals. That was fun. I did like six or eight vocal tracks to get that kind of choir sound. Now, one thing I will show off is that, say I recorded a guitar track, and there are like it's played just about perfect, but there's a part or two in there that is a little off. If I wanted to splice it and realign it to make sure it was perfectly on time, I would basically hit, and I can't remember what I have the hotkey set to. I can't even remember what the tool is called. But there is a thing you can do in here to splice this track. And from there you can, I think it was, yeah. So here we have under Edit, Clip Boundaries, Split. If I do that and I have it set to number 3 on my numpad, if I do that, it's going to split this track, and then I can drag just this part and realign it however I need to. But for this, we don't need to do that because it's pretty on time. Because I'm the best around. Just kidding. And sometimes I will have to kind of listen to see where I need to start the silence. So we need to start it right about here. And see, I'm dragging my selection to the drums just so I can make sure I'm lining it up good. And we're going to silence that. And then again, we're going to fade out the edge. Kablams. I need to make sure this duplicate track is muted. Oh, you know, while I'm thinking about it, I actually need to be doing this with a bass. Where are you, bass? Show yourself. Here it is. Right here. Gotta bring this down. This is the problem when I have so many tracks. It just takes forever to freaking move these. In Audacity, it does. And just to reiterate, I just use Audacity for recording. Nothing else. And it's just because that I'm used to it when it comes to editing like I'm doing right now. Kablams. Get in there. All right. So I should have done this earlier, but I'm going to be silencing or, you know, tweaking the guitars and the bass at the same time. Saves so much time. I should have been doing it earlier with that first part, but, you know, you live and you learn. Again, fading out that part. Kablams. And this is the only other, this is the last part that I actually need to do this with. Because I've already done the rest for the sake of the stream. I need a drink. My drink of choice is Mountain Dew Voltage. It's so good. I got Baja Blast right now, but oh, it's the best. Especially right here, this part. I mean, look at that shit. Oh, all that noise has to go. Absolutely. Mountain Dew Voltage equals life. Yeah. Deadly Bacon knows what's up. Or vanilla Dr. Pepper. Those two are my favorite. You know, in the summertime, around 4th of July, they got that vanilla float Dr. Pepper. Oh, it's so good. Can't wait. You know, since we're working on a Ancient 3 song, let's go ahead and play the last one, which was False Savior. Turn it up for you. This track, again, was recorded before I got my Pod HD, so I will have to go back and redo it. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do it at a lower tuning than what I did. I think I did, like, drop A flat or something. I don't remember. No vocals on this track yet, but that'll come later. Oh, what's happening to my mouse? There we go. You can see this part is a little off, but I think it'll be okay because I don't think you'll be able to notice. So that's fine. So I was listening to it earlier and I didn't notice it, so it's all good. Again, if anybody has music of their own that they want to share, and I'll stream it while I'm doing this boring stuff. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, you know what? I'm pretty bad about this. Save often. Very often. Holy shit. That would have been really bad. And my computer crashed like it did 10 minutes before the stream, and I lost all that work. Very bad. All right. Let's play something else now. Let's play a fan favorite. This is one of my top played songs. It's crazy. So this song is We Will Fall to Rise Again. And I've recorded this 3 different times. This song was originally for a side project I had going like years ago. It's called With Man Comes a Massacre. And this is one of those songs. This is actually a different version of it. But this is one of those songs that was like It just became a cult classic, I guess. Because like a guy, I think his name is Chris Archie. He started using it in his videos. By the way, Chris Archie, thank you. You are awesome. In his RuneScape videos, and it just blew up. Blew the fuck up. It's nuts. If I remember, this part of this song was not actually in the original, this breakdown. Free advertisement, the best advertisement. Nah, I love when people use songs in my songs in their videos. It's awesome. I totally don't mind if people do it as long as they, credit me, of course. Okay, so we have finished tweaking that section. I'm sorry I had to pause that awesome song, but we have finished tweaking this section, this riff. So let's go back and hear how it sounded before, just the guitar. It's right here. So, again, lots of sliding of the fingers can be heard. It's very prominent. We didn't want that, so we cleaned it up. And now let's listen to what it sounds like now that we've, made it tighter. Just the guitars. Oops. Don't want it louder. Geez, 16 fucking dB louder. Just blow out my eardrums. So a lot tighter. Now let's listen to it all together. Make sure that other. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this other just comparison. There we go. Okay, now let's listen to it all together. Drums, bass, guitar. Go. So there we go. Sounds killer. So let's go back. Let me actually turn off that metronome. I, of course, use a metronome when I record. And sometimes I forget to turn it off. Boom. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning of the song and take a listen to that. Deadly Bacon, thanks for the support, man. You're awesome. So there we have it. Sounding pretty tight, pretty good. Not to brag, but you know. So yeah, that riff leads into this breakdown, and it has this kind of like droning ambient guitar over it, which I will be doing more with. I haven't decided if I'm going to add synths to this. I probably will actually. Probably add some synths to this. I don't know if I'll do it in this stream. I'll probably just keep it to, because there's not really a whole lot to go over that. And it takes some time sometimes to really find the right synths that I'm looking for and tweaking them and blah blah blah. So yeah, it goes into this droning kind of droning ambient breakdown here. And then into the chorus. And then there's a transition, and it goes into the next breakdown. Funny thing about Longing, there's a interlude in State of Mind, that last full-length album I put out. The interlude Outlook. Let's see. By the way, here's a folder of all, well, not all of them, but pretty much all Beyond Our Eyes releases. Oh, excuse me. So we're looking for State of Mind, sorry. Where the heck is it? It may not be in this folder, actually. Boom. Oh, I still have it titled New 2014 Album. Definitely did not come out in 2014. Okay, so this interlude, Outlook, was actually supposed to be an intro to Longing. And this is how it goes. Because at the very end, you can hear the intro guitar bit from Longing reversed. It's a very like ambient, peaceful melody. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to start bringing together these tracks, so it's not so, tracks everywhere. So I'm going to merge all the guitar tracks into one track now that we're done editing and stuff. The only exception is going to be that very first intro breakdown, because we still have to copy that to the ending where it's repeated. Ugh. Okay, it's coming up. That the outro of this song is the intro of Longing reversed. And then originally my thought was to have it go into that, but instead I now have it go into Silenced. What I liked about doing that song is that towards the end, where you have that kind of like a reverse sounding ambient track in the background. It, like, I liked that because I wasn't trying to, but when it when I reversed it and I was listening to it, it was like, this sounds kind of like, it has like a Japanese kind of vibe to it, or like Asian vibe to it. Just, I don't know, I like it. And it's actually that, because that part plays. And I just fucking play it. What am I doing? I'm sure not everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's possible. I'll play this in the meanwhile. Okay, I found it. So I'm just gonna kind of skip ahead, but yeah, I'll play this breakdown a little bit. I need you now, so I will scream. So this ambient lead right here. So, and then it goes into this this chord progression right here, or whatever. So you hear that lead? So that reversed ambient lead is the same thing, but backwards, and also, or I'm sorry, it's slower and it's reversed. So I played it slower and then reversed it, and that's how you got that. It was a cool little effect I'd never really done before then. So yeah. Moving on now. I need to merge all these guitar tracks. Oh, and we have these parts right here. I'm going to solo it and play it. So these are going to be kind of, I'm going to make them more subtle than they are in this, than they sound right now. But just add some more emphasis to that melody. So I have this in the chorus parts. And like I said, I recorded it once, and then I duplicated it 3 times, because that chorus plays again later. Only the first time it only plays once or twice. Like it goes through the melody twice, and then the second time it shows up, it goes through the melody 4 times. So I just needed to duplicate that twice and make sure it's aligned. Blah blah blah. So now we're merging those 2 together, or 3, and kablams. There it is. I need to add silence here and mix it down, because when I get into the mixing and mastering phases, I'll be exporting all these tracks out, and if I don't add that silence, and I import the track, it'll basically it'll start like that part will be at the very beginning, and it won't be where it needs to be. So yeah, that's why I do that. And I use Mixcraft 5 for mixing and mastering. I've had several people tell me how surprised they were because I use Mixcraft. Um, I started using it around when What Time Will Tell. When I was working on that album, that's when I kind of started using Mixcraft. Oh, whoops, I need to add silence. And I've been using it ever since. Okay. Like I said, just mixing all these tracks together. Let's play a track from the original Ancient EP. Let's do Obsolete. I was really not expecting, because like, I don't know, I was like messing around with this style and I wasn't expecting this EP to get as much recognition as it did. That's awesome. And of course, spawned a second Ancient EP and soon to be a third. And when I was actually writing this EP, I was really influenced by Paragon. He's another solo artist. His name is Eric. Definitely check out his stuff because he's so good. If you're into this sort of, like heavy, low tunes kind of, well, it's like his way is like it's kind of like a blend of like deathcore and gent and hardcore, and it's really good. So if you're into Ancient, check out his stuff for sure. Okay, now as you can see, we have our guitar track. With everything merged. I am going to do these leads, but I'm going to do it in a way where because like if I need to go back and like edit this or something, I don't want to merge it with this because you can see they overlap right there. Like this fades out and then this comes in. So I don't want to merge those in case I need to do something. So basically I'm just going to have two lead tracks. So these two are fine because they're not overlapping. And then get this one too. That's another one of those droning ambient tracks. And I think that's it. So we're going to mix that. A funny story about this song. I can't remember who it was, but it was a guy from some top band, and like I think it was a band signed to Rise Records or something. And the vocalist, he like messaged me on Facebook and was like, really like this song if you wrote it. And I was like, what are you talking about if I wrote it? Of course I wrote it. I even put up a video of me like working on it. I don't know. Kind of weird. Like, what makes it so hard to believe that I didn't write that? I guess because like before Ancient, I was doing mostly uh, progressive metal or metalcore type stuff, and this was like my first dip into that style. I actually want to say I want to say it was like Hands Like Houses. I think is the band. The guy from the band. I can't remember. I think his name started with a T. Whoops. So I duplicated that track, the drums, just so it'd be at the bottom. Because there is one more thing we have to do, and that's to take that intro breakdown and copy paste it to the front. My wife needs a phone charger now. Okay. So like I said, we're going to take, this is the base. We're going to take that. We're going to duplicate it. There's the duplicate down there. And we're going to move this one all the way over here. In looking at the drum tracks, I can tell where it needs to be lined up. Because you have, I can tell these are the three hi-hat hits, and the toms, and 2 hits on the snare, and that's where the bass drum starts. So it needs to go right there. And then I'm just gonna go along the track to make sure that everything lines up. Looks pretty good. So let's just listen to that and make sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I gotta do it one more time because, like I said, this breakdown plays twice. And I'm pretty sure this is where it starts over. Pretty sure. So about right there. Sounds good. Okay. Now, we need to do the same thing with the guitars. We can go ahead and, actually, you know what? We don't want to do that yet. I was going to say we can go ahead and merge all the bass tracks into one, but for the sake of making it easy to line the guitars up, because they start at the same point, I can easily make them line up to the bass, and it'll be exactly where it needs to be. We can delete everything after that part. Not looping the whole song. And then drag this over. Bam. And then we need one more of these. So I've duplicated it. It'll be towards the bottom. Kablams. There it is. And then we're going to drag it to align with that bass track. And there we go. So now it should be all lined up, sounding good. I think I have... I think it's just me. I thought I'd like duplicated it twice or something. Did I? Oh shit. Oh, you know what? I think they were both selected and I moved them. I moved them both. Would I be available for hire to produce? I have before. I'm totally down for that. I've I've only worked with like 2 other bands. I worked with The Ghost of You and on their EP, and then I also worked with One We Created on 2 of their EPs. Only one of them's been put out, but yeah, I'm totally down to produce another. You should send me an email about it. I'll check it out. But yeah, it totally moved both of those. I didn't mean to do that. So, no problem. We'll just go back up and align that one only this time. Go blams. Okay. Let's just listen to it. And I will be, that lead from the beginning will play there, so that transition won't be so blah. And I'll probably throw in some other stuff too. And then that fill won't be there. The song will just kind of stop. And maybe it'll have some like outro ambience that fades out or something, but I'll probably get to that later. Alright. So the song is done, pretty much. At this point. Aside from like the little things we want to add, like the little ambient bits and whatnot. But recording wise and editing, it's done. Post-production. Now we just need to edit the drums, make them sound more composed, less basic. And then we can get to mixing and mastering. So I'll probably just tweak some of the drums. But here's the whole song. And then during this silent part, I will add some synths there, kind of around the same melody, and it'll build into that breakdown here. I'm going to change that fill. I'm going to change it in both this part and the beginning. And that fill is going to change, because that's just, like I said, placeholder. These are very basic drums just to get, the recording going. And that fill won't even be there, so. Cool. So we're going to get back to mixing everything down. Then we're going to export a sample track for tweaking the drums. I'm going to basically bring all the guitars into FL Studio where I'm programming my drums, just so I can listen to it as I'm doing it and get an idea of how it all sounds together. Now I'm playing Warmonger from Ancient 2, a song about Dragon Age origins. Believe it or not. Oh. Sorry, the last thing we need to do is we're going to put this lead over that intro breakdown also. Mr. First Name, Last Name, you're a legend, bro. Thank you so much. I don't think of myself as, but dude, super appreciate the support. But anyway, about the song we're listening to, like I said, it's about Dragon Age. You can, in the lyrics, it literally says, "The archdemon, he's inside my head." 'Cause if you've played the game, he has. You're the main character, and he has like nightmares about the archdemon coming to kill everybody. So like the archdemon, he's inside my head, corrupting my dreams with a fate worse than death. And then he's got. It's been a while since I played the game, but there's like a poison flowing through him, linked to the archdemon or something like that. It's been a while. I feel the poison flowing through my veins. I wait the day it takes me away. I cannot rest until this evil is slain. And then the victory that shall glorify my name. I'm actually just going to make sure that this is lined up how it needs to be. Yep. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, just that one part I forgot. So, sorry. Sabian, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but welcome. That's right, one-man band, solo musician. Okay, so now back to save. Like I said, I can get really bad about not saving. And we don't want that. I'm gonna make sure all these are mixed together. But I want the levels to be the same. Claims. Sweet. Alright, now here's Doppelganger from Ancient 2 as well. This song is basically about the people versus the higher powers, or you could say the government. And it's basically like, I'll let you listen to it, but seeking to bribe our minds and rob us blind. And it's basically about like the people rising up against the evil government. No innocence! No pity for your kind! Ah. Maybe I'll do a stream of me recording vocals at some point. That'd be cool. I don't want to test the limits of my shitty PC too far, though. And just fucking explode. Okay, so if you've been watching since the beginning of this track, we went from like a million different recorded tracks to maybe 7 or 8. We've cleaned up this file quite a bit. Oh, I've already saved. Good. So now we're just going to go in and label them. This is the bass guitar. This one we will call lead chorus. No, we'll just do lead 3. So there's 3 total. Kablams. Alright, new song. Let's do a classic. Let's go back to where this all began, y'all. We're gonna throw it back to Under Control. Just gotta get to it. No, even better, even better. We'll throw it back to With Man Comes Massacre. So this song, let's see, I'm looking at the properties to see when I made it. Okay, this is 2009 right here. This is me in 2009. This is Tears of a Goddess. This is a song I wrote for a side project called With Man Comes Massacre. This is 2009 when I made this. Very A Day to Remember inspired. Shit, this is lead 2. Yep. And this is... You know what? What I'll actually do? Because I have these like leads kind of mixed up. And so the legend was born. Haha. Okay, so I want this droning ambient track on one track, and then this intro lead. Oh, whoops! Fucking knocked my mic over. And I want that same lead that goes da na 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 na. I want that all on one track. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, so there's the droning ambient track, and this is the yep. That's the other, like, I call that like, because this is the like panned kind of like rhythm lead is what I would call it. It's kind of a lead, but it's kind of not. Just to emphasize the melody. Oh, whoops. Hold on, I screwed up. I need to delete this part. My bad. Okay. There we go. And just think of like Gur from Invader Zim. Okay, this is gonna be lead one. Let's play another With Man Comes Massacre. Let's play the original We Will Fall to Rise Again. And actually back then it was called We Rise to Fall Once Again. But the new title makes more sense to me. We got that like MIDI synth in there. This upcoming riff was a little different. Oh, I guess that breakdown was there. I totally forgot. It's a little different. So you can hear in this part that the drums are different, not as fast paced. There's no lead guitar over it, and there's no accenting like synths either. The very bare bones version. But yeah, this is where that track all began. And is that track actually... Oh, wait a minute. There's more to it. I haven't listened to this in forever. So... But yeah, it like stops, and then I think a clean guitar comes in. Yeah. Totally different. This like weird lead, like kind of distant. Okay, I'm remembering it now. Wee wee wee. Okay, so we got everything in the respective tracks. Wee 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 wee. Now we have the file saved. Now we're gonna make our just kind of rough drum editing track. So we're gonna get rid of the metronome. Yeah, this is wow. Get rid of that. That's the drum track. We're gonna lower the volume of that. Rhythm lead. Just for this. Lower that. Guitar is fine. Actually, we're going to raise the guitar a little bit. Like 2. And I think there's another, like, riff that comes in after all this. If I remember right. And it comes in eventually, I think. Or I could be thinking of a different one. So we're mixing all this. Or no, I think it just stops, actually. Yeah, it just stops. Never mind. I lied to you all. Sorry. All right, let's take it back even further. Listen to some Death Clips, yo. Death Clips was my alias before Beyond Our Eyes. DETHKALYPSE. So here's one of the songs that was like the most popular at the time. It's like very shitty quality and stuff, but you know, it is what it is. Cool, so we got our test track. We're gonna export this as a wave. We're just gonna title it BOE Venture the Gateway. That's the working title. For drums. We're gonna put it in that same folder. Here it is. We're gonna put it in drums. BOE Venture the Gateway. Blah, blah, blah. Cool. Yep. Cool. Now that we got that, we're not going to save. We had already saved. And we don't want to overwrite everything with just this. No, we're not saving. I'm going to open up FL Studio again. We're going to throw in an audio clip layer. We're going to open up our audio clip. We're going to select our track that we just exported. We're going to go to our playlist. We have that track selected. We're going to put it right in the beginning. Now, when I put it in here, it's going to be a little off, so we want to zoom in. And we want to align it. I'm going to hit none. That way you can just kablams. Now that should be good. We're going to turn off this bass virtual instrument. Let's just listen to this and just make sure it's aligned. Yeah. Okay, it's a little off. So you're going to zoom in even more. Oh, still a little off. Still. We're actually going to turn that track down a little bit. Cool. So now we got that. Now we can start really getting into the drums and composing the drums. Yeah. This is going to be good. Okay. So, and then just to show, I do have Sound Goodizer on just for listening purposes. This isn't, I'm going to be turning this off when I'm exporting the drums out. This is just for me listening. I was using B. We're going to use A. Just turn that up a little bit. Well, like I said, we're going to turn that off later. Please don't roast me for using Sound Goodizer. Okay. We're going to kick it back to pattern. No, we're not. We have to stick on song. And then we're going to come. So here's our drums. All of the drums. This is where that hi-hat comes in. to zoom in a little bit. So I want to tweak this just a little bit. I want the first hi-hat hit to be a little soft, so I'm going to go over here and change the velocity of it. I'm going to bring it down a little bit so it's a little softer hit, and then it kind of builds up. The only time I'd have these toms at the very top if it's not really like a fill per se. So I'm just gonna raise them down a little bit so they sound just a little bit more natural. We're gonna raise this first hit of the snare down a little slightly. Okay. So I had this idea, and I'm not sure if it's going to sound good, but we're going to try it out, of using the ride cymbal here. So we have our bass drum here. These are the snare hits. It's kind of strode out all over the place. And then here we have our China hit. So as you can see, as I'm dragging across, you can hear the different parts of the drums. So what would it sound like if we put a hi-hat there? And then maybe like, so basically what I'm doing now is I'm really composing the drums. So I'm just kind of experimenting, seeing how different things sound. I like to accent, like, the guitars. So like having that hi-hat there and then the two ride hits there. Not quite what I want it to be like yet, so. We'll probably save that for later. So we'll just keep it how it was for now. But right around here, we want to do something different. So maybe we have some like alternating hits between the hi-hat and the splash cymbal. It's not bad. Maybe we alternate it between the China instead. So I think I'm gonna have it there. And what would it sound like if we put two snare hits at the end of that? Let's see what that sounds like. We'd probably want to get rid of that hi-hat though if we did that. That's kind of good. So this is basically the process of working on these drums. Just kind of I don't actually play drums. I wish I did because I think it'd be a lot of fun. I had a drum set at one point actually, and I was messing around with it. And long story short, I just it was given away without my consent. Um, so yeah, I never really got into learning the drums faux show. I'd really like to though. I mean, I have a lot of fun just messing around with it, and when I don't know what I'm doing. But um, it's just hard right now because like, where am I gonna put a whole drum kit? Yeah, I kind of like those snare hits. Um, so we're gonna keep them, I think. Now, you know what? We'll do this during the second half. So let's skip over to the second half of that breakdown, which is about right over here. Yeah, that sounds good, I think. So we added this ride hit here. This is the bell hit versus we have, kind of like hitting it from the side there. So we have that bell hit and then a hi-hat, and then we have 2 hits on the snare to kind of, jazz it up. I think that sounds good. So maybe we'll have a splash hit there. And then, maybe during this part right here, where we have like a little bit of silence there, maybe we put a triplet of the bass drum in there. So like, I'm sorry. It'd actually be more of a quadruplet. That's kind of cool. And maybe, let's see. Maybe we have one more to lead into the snare. Yeah, that sounds kind of good actually. What do you guys think? Y'all dig that, or? Yeah, maybe that last hit is a bit too much. And maybe during the last part of this breakdown, we have a crash instead of the China. I changed my mind. I think it's too much. Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking China first, then 2 crash hits, and then have the ride bell during that. Maybe we need to transition into that ba dun 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 part a little better. Maybe some snare hits will help. Let's, Nah, I think we do need that snare hit there. Maybe we just have two. That's not bad. All right, moving on. We got this riff. So let's tweak this. Basically, what I'll do is I'll compose it the way I want it, and then usually after I do that, I'll change the velocity of things to make them sound more natural. But for now, we're just going to worry about composing. So I swapped out that bass kick for a snare. Let's change this hit right here to a splash and see how that sounds. Maybe not there, maybe we put it there. I'll have to play around that a little bit more. Actually, kind of leaning towards a China. Now this is a very tedious process too. So maybe we don't have the bass drum accenting the guitar the whole time. Maybe we take out some of those hits and just kind of set it apart. Yeah, I think that sounds better. You want to mix it up, and you don't want the bass drum following what the guitar is doing the whole time. Yeah, I think that sounds better. We're gonna save. Can't forget to save. And we'll have that accent hit leading into the snare right there. And what would it sound like if we added one after? Probably save that for the second part. So right here where it goes da 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 but da da, we want to change up these cymbal hits for sure. Maybe a splash. Maybe we do a crash and then a splash. Crash splash. Yeah, I don't think we need that last cymbal hit there. I think it sounds good without it. I don't think it actually. Uh, it doesn't show me the names. Is this what you're talking about? Bankel? I don't know. Because like on some things it does show me the names here, but for this one it's not. That's okay. I've kind of memorized where they're at, so I know I'm making it harder on myself. I'll have to look into that. See, we learn from each other. I love that. Yeah, so that sounds good to me, I think. Okay, so now we're going to duplicate what we just edited. And we're going to replace the second part. And we're not going to use it like exactly the same. We're going to still tweak it. But yeah, that's a start. Yeah, so maybe during the second part we add that extra little bass hit in there. And then maybe we also add in an accenting splash. Okay. I was messing around with that tom hit, but it's just it's not gonna work out. Give me like 5 minutes, guys. We're gonna take a little break. Actually, probably not even 5 minutes. But go ahead. Just feel free to play this from the start while I'm taking a break. All right, made it back just in time. My wife was leaving. I had to say goodbye. For the sake of time, I'm going to work on this a little bit longer. But for the sake of time, we are going to stop this part and I'll pull up an existing song that's already been done and just kind of show the mixing and mastering side. I'll probably do one of my more recent covers. Whoops, didn't mean to go all the way back there. So we're wanting to add a cool fill in this spot to lead up to the breakdown. See what this sounds like. Something along the lines of that. I'm liking it. Let's tweak it a little bit more, so we'll come back to that. Shit. Be kind of similar to that one. I forgot what I was even going for. We had another snare, and then bass drum, and then snare. Mm. Yeah, this is basically the whole process. Me working on drums, just kind of experimenting till I come up with something that sounds good. And again, just to show, if I'm gonna edit the velocity of these hits, I usually only do the toms and the snare and the cymbals when the need arises. But for this part, we're just messing with the toms and the snare hits, so editing the velocity of those to be a little more natural. Yeah, that right there would be fine. And so, let's see. So I had the idea of, throwing in a hi-hat hit there, but maybe we drag it out even further because the first part of this breakdown is supposed to be a little more slow-paced. So maybe right there would be good. Yeah, I think that sounds good. Yep, I like it. Yeah, like maybe with the second time we do it twice with the ride. Yeah, just trying to show different ways to really kind of spice up those drum tracks, get them sounding a little more composed. Like I said, I'm not a drummer, so doing what I can, and I try to be mindful of like, does this sound like something that could actually be played by a badass drummer? And try not to throw too much in there to where it'd be unrealistic. But I'm going to, for the sake of time, like I said, we're going to cut this part of the process for now. Besides, I kind of want to, leave some surprise to this new song when I do put it out, which, it'll probably be within the next week. I'll have this, finished and out to you guys. So let's skip ahead. Let me show you my FL Studio file for Dire Dire Docks, my Mario 64 cover. I'll show you what it looks like because there's a lot more involved with this file here. Lots of synths, as you can see. And going back to what I said earlier during the writing process, I have started using Slayer and this bass virtual instrument just to get my ideas down and hear how they sound before I get to recording. So, and obviously it's going to sound god awful, but like I said, this is just for writing purposes only. So, but like I said, we have our ambient pad, which I'm going to solo these out just so you can hear them one at a time. Like we have our ambient pad, we have like our C waves, kind of sound effect in the beginning of that song. We have our main bell melody, which, I wanted that to be very authentic to how the song actually sounds. So that's why I picked that one. This is what it sounds. So I think this sounds pretty faithful to the original. This cover is at a lower key than the original, but it's close. And it was just for the sake of making it gent. Gotta have that low tune gent. All right, and we have the C wave sound effect that plays in the background. And then we have this ambient pad synth. Very straightforward. And we do have a flute in there as well. Da, 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 and with this flute, I have modified the velocity of some of the notes as well, as you can see. And when I'm making these covers, I'm basically listening to the song and replicating what I hear by ear. It's when I first started learning how to play guitar, that was like one of the first things that I learned how to do, was to listen to a song and pick up how to play it by ear, versus like using tabs or like looking up music notes, because I can't read sheet music. I learned at one point and I totally forgot because I never use it. And I know nothing about music theory at all. I got into writing music just because, I kind of understood this is, how harmonies work. This is how dissonance works. And without really even knowing those terms, I just kind of picked up on that stuff and just started writing, honestly, and just fooling around and yeah. So that's how my writing process is, just fooling around. And then we have this like electronic bass, just kind of like really deep. And then, of course, we have our drums in there. It starts kind of, with some ride hits, and then it builds. You gotta start with like one kick, get a second kick in there, and then they start becoming a little more, proactive. Get 3 kicks in there, and then it builds into the actual like bass groove. And right there, that's you know what? And yeah, I'll show that off. So here's that groove. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead, I think. Bing. Did I? Right here. So you can see, here's the snare, these hits, and I have some, ghost hits in there by adjusting the velocity. And so, some different hi-hat hits during that transition, doing the thing with the ride cymbal, just kind of accent that part where the bass drums are just like, bum. They have that kind of played out note. And like I said, we do have that bass virtual instrument that I was using for the writing purposes. It's in here. Let's listen to how that sounds. And then I have Slayer That kicks in right now. So this is what I have started doing for my writing process, just to get my thoughts out there before recording. So we get all of that in there. And this is all before mixing and mastering and stuff. I don't do that in FL Studio. And there you have it. Okay, let's now jump over to Mixcraft. This is where I do my mixing and mastering. This is Mixcraft 5. There are newer versions since, but I'm still using 5. I will upgrade sometime soon. And I will go ahead and pull up a project. I'll pull up Wandering Flame because I was wanting to play that song earlier, my Final Fantasy X cover. But I for some reason I don't have an MP3 on this computer. I don't know why. I have every other cover that I've done except for Wandering Flame. But yeah, we're gonna pull up that file. Boom. And we'll go over everything. I'll show what I'm doing to mix my drums, what I'm doing to mix my guitars, stuff like that. So we got a lot going on in this file. A lot. Up here, this is kind of like a building, like whoosh, like whoosh. We have that kind of sound effect right there. We have some bass drops here. Oh wait, these aren't bass drops. These are accent hits for the snare to make them go like, it's just like, I'm using like sound effects that I got from a friend. They're like DJ sound effects, and some of them come in pretty handy for this. So I'm just gonna show what the snare sounds like. And then once you get to this hit, it's like, bah. So it sounds like really huge. And so I've used that in a couple of places. Like one of the more notable places is during this breakdown right here. Or actually, I have two different versions of that, too. I have another one that's like this. So you mix that with the snare. It sounds like huge. So let's play all the drum parts together with that sound effect. That's my favorite part. Where right here, where like the cymbals slow down, and that's a good example of like just like really when I'm composing the drums, just like really accenting, the breakdown, uh, with those different hits, and then like going into the toms, and it's just like right here. I was like really hyped when I was when I did that part when I was working on it. Um, so, and if you've never heard this cover before, this is kind of what it sounds like. Like I said, like really accenting that breakdown. I love that. I don't, I don't know why I'm so hyped over that. Anyways, so yeah, so when I'm mixing drums, uh, I want my emphasis to be on the bass drum, the snare, and the toms, and then the cymbals more in the background. Like I really want my snare and bass drum to stand out in the mix. Um, so you can see like my cymbals, and I have them grouped as one track. I have the crash cymbal, the China cymbal, and the ride cymbal grouped into one thing. I don't really know. I can't remember why exactly I started doing that because I guess they're like around the same. Um, what's the word for it? They're like around the same, just intensity, I guess. It's hard to really explain what I'm trying to say, but and then I have the hi hat and the splash in one track. Um, tom separate, snare separate, bass drum separate. Let's take a look at the bass drum. I have a compressor on there. I have some different EQs. Um, so with the bass drum, basically, um, you do want to have like some good, and this is just how I'm doing it. But I've increased some of the mids in there, brought down some of the other ones, other frequencies. I don't want too much like emphasis on the bass, on that bass drum, because you get stuff like my Perfect Dark cover. That bass drum just had like too much bass in it, and it was really making the mix kind of pumpy. Uh, like something you would want on an electronic song, but you don't want it with metal. So that's just one of the reasons I wanted to go back and redo that one. Um, and like anytime the bass drop came in, I think the reason for that is because my bass guitar track was it just had too much of like the really low frequency bass, and that's what was causing it to um, sound pumpy. But all I have on this bass drum is some EQ and a compressor, and that's it. The snare, again, some EQ compressor, but we also have this reverb in here. I'll go ahead and play it with the reverb off, just so you can hear. Or actually, I'll turn all this off so you can hear it just raw. So that's what it sounds like raw. And then we're going to add those effects back, except for the reverb. I'll show you what it sounds like without the reverb. So it's sounding pretty good. And what I've done to so using the EQ and the compressor, my goal with that was to really get it to like pop out of the mix and really stand out. I have it sound it like really hard. And to do that, there's usually like a when I'm mixing snare, there's like a low frequency towards the lower end of the mids that I would boost here. That really emphasizes that hit. And then I'll take the compressor. These are the settings that I'm using to really get that pop in the snare. So if I were to turn this off and play it, that's kind of what it sounds like. If I turn it back on, it's sounding better. Now here's what it sounds like with the reverb. The reason I have this reverb in it is to kind of simulate it having more room. So it kind of trails off. Has like more room to it. It's a little less dry sounding. With the toms, my idea with the toms is to take out a little bit of the low end, but still have like some emphasis. This would be a good point to show it actually. So if I turn off all these effects, this is what it sounds like raw. Oh, sorry. Turn them back on. Have a little bit of reverb in there, a little bit EQ and compression to just increase the intensity of it. Yeah, these are the three, most important things that I want to stand out in my mix: bass drum, snare, and toms. And like I said, you want your cymbals to be more in the background. Moving on to the bass guitar. I have some EQ, got a little bit of compression going on. Here I will, let's see. I'll go ahead and solo this out. So when I'm mixing my bass guitar, I will tweak how these certain elements sound. But most importantly is I want to make sure my bass guitar, the bass end really stands out and makes the track sound huge in a way. So, I mean, depending on what tuning you're playing in, with this song, I was playing in a low tuning. So I set my hertz on the low mid to around 73 and then boosted that about 3 dB. And that's just enough to really get the bass sounding good. It might be hard to hear, depending on what you're listening to. It might be kind of hard to hear the difference, but I'm going to turn these off and play it. So that's without. And that's with. So a little more presence in the bass. If I were to tweak it and bring the frequency up, and start to get into the mid range, maybe we want it to be more in the low range. Right there, and like I said, we don't want to boost it too much, otherwise it's going to make the mix pumpy. We don't want that. We don't want that. Okay, so here's the guitar track. Again, just some EQ, some compression. That's it. I've boosted the low end a bit. Before, like way back when, I would completely take out the low end. I don't know why. But I would completely take that out. Like, no, we don't need we don't need any of that. But I've learned to respect the low end of the guitar because it is important. So I've boosted it a little bit, taken out a little bit of like the low mid area at a certain frequency. Took out a little bit of the high mids, added a little bit of treble. So with those turned off, there's what we're looking at. If I turn those on, here's what we're looking at. Turned it off. Turn it back on. We have our leads over here. We have two lead guitar tracks. We have one that's higher pitched, and then we have one that's lower. We have them panned also. We have this like lower one that's panned to the right. We have this higher one that's panned to the left. Basically playing the same thing. And then down here we have our synths. And I mean, every synth is going to be different. It's hard to like give advice on how to mix a synth. It just really kind of depends on the synth and how you want it to stand out. One thing that I have done. See, I'll go ahead and play this part. So I have like the percussion of this part right here. It's kind of glitchy. And I have this like distant, like low tune snare right there. And then I have, with this glitchy kind of drum beat, I have degraded it to where it kind of sounds like low quality. And I've actually done the same thing with this one. No, sorry. So I've degraded it, and it's also glitchy. So all together, and then we have this sub bass in here to accent the kick of that beat. This is what it sounds like. And then we can go back and like listen to the very beginning of that song. So there you have it. So this is Wandering Flame. This is a cover of a song from Final Fantasy X. It's on my channel. Check it out. Outlier, welcome. We're just wrapping up this stream, but welcome. We're going to show off one more track. I'm not going to save this. We're going to open. Let's open up False Savior because I haven't showed off any vocal stuff yet, and I haven't really. Honestly, I'm not happy with the way I've been doing vocals lately. I want to get better at that. So yeah, it's gonna be. This is actually on my. No, it's not. Sorry. I gotta remember where I put it. Here it is. Just started labeling them differently. Point. Here we go. Song 01. So we're gonna look at the False Savior stems and check out the vocal tracks on this one. This is the latest song that I've done vocals on. And so this one is going to be a little bit different. So as you can see on this one, I haven't gotten to, like, I have this reverb here, but it's not even on. I hadn't gotten to that point to where I added that kind of effect where it kind of added more room to that snare. So it is sounding a little more dry in this song, but I think it's okay because there's not like as much going on in some of those other ones. Like there's no synths or anything. Here's our vocal tracks down here. If you haven't heard of this song before, I'll go ahead and just play it at this point right here. Built to stand tall, but they always fall short. The promise of a new age, freedom in the brigade. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Fuel for the machine. Say goodbye to humanity. Cool. So as you can see, we have our main screamo track right here. We have a backup scream track, and then we have a distorted scream track. Let's listen to what this sounds like isolated. And I'll go ahead and go to this. I have Spitfish on, which is a shit. I already forgot what it's called. It's like a de-esser kind of. So it takes out kind of that kind of sound when you're like when you're like using the S, when you're saying like words with S in it, or stuff like that. Kind of takes out some of that treble, so it's not so piercing. Aside from that, we have some EQ, and then we have a compressor. If I didn't have this compressor on, basically the levels would kind of be all over the place. Anyways, this is what it sounds like isolated. Built to stand tall, but they always fall short. The promise of a new age, freedom in the brigade. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Fuel for the machine. Say goodbye to humanity. So that's what it sounds like raw. Actually, you know what, I'll turn this stuff off raw, but I'm not using like any gains, any distortions, anything like that. It's just really compression, EQ. That's how I scream. So. With all those effects turned off, this is what it sounds like. And I think I was using a compressor when I recorded, but just needed a little bit more, so that's why it's there again. But there's also a little bit of reverb in there from recording. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Fuel for the machine. Say goodbye to humanity. So that's kind of what that sounds like. I'll turn this back on. Now let's listen to the backup screams. It's just accenting some of those It's lyrics. So I had one thing different that I had here, and it's really easy to hear it, is I had this stereo effect. This one's kind of crappy, but I used it here. You can't really tell in the full mix, that kind of con to it, but everything you hoped it would be. Say goodbye to humanity. So that's kind of what that sounds like raw. And then, pair it with the other one, raw. We'll do it all raw. This is what it sounds like. Built to stand tall, but they always fall short. The promise of a new age, freedom in a brigade. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Fuel for the machine. Say goodbye to humanity. And then we turn those effects back on, including the stereo. What I really should have done is just track this twice, pan one to the right, pan one to the left, but this is okay. Built to stand tall, but in a brigade. Is it everything you hoped it would be? Fuel for the machine. Say goodbye to humanity. We were not born to be denied. Sacrifice to uphold your design. So there you have that. Now we're going to move on to, we have a little bit of clean vocals here. Now let's listen to those clean vocals, isolated. Here's what they sound like. I don't need to be saved, not from a false savior. I only wish to be freed from this false savior. So as you can see, we have an auto-tune VST in here. So we have the retune speed at 20. We don't want it too high to where it sounds too T-Pain-ish, We have some compression in there. We got some delays. We got a little more going on with the clean vocals. The delays just is something I use to just kind of add more, make them sound a little bit more huge, for lack of a better word. So if I were to turn all these off, and I'll do it on both, this is what it would sound like. I don't need to be saved, not from a false savior. I only wish to be freed from this false savior. Okay, so we turn those back on. And I'll leave off the delay so we can hear what that sounds like with it off. I don't need to be saved, not from a false savior. So you can hear I did record it with a little bit of reverb in there. So now you know what it sounds like without the delay, so we'll add the delay back on, and you can see it just kind of adds some room to it. I don't need to be saved, not from a false savior. So it's a little bit of echo. And yeah, and then we have this distorted scream right over here, this little bugger. So that plays during this ending breakdown part. So isolated, So reverbed a lot. Um, oh, I didn't add any gain to this one. That's something I would think to do. But so I made it stereo. Again, I should have just tracked it twice and panned it each way, but I used a stereo effect instead. Added reverb on top of that, so it sounds just kind of like, in the background, kind of ambient. We were not born to be denied. Sacrifice to a bolder design. And we have this scream at the very end. We have this lead up into the breakdown. I cannot be turned. On me, book. So that part sounds like this. I cannot be turned. No fear on me. Cool. So going back to the new song that I've been working on today, what I'm going to do once I have everything done, I'm going to do export all the tracks to Wave. I'm going to open up my latest song that I've worked on, or just one of the latest ones, like this one. And then we're basically going to, for example, use this Wandering Flame file, and we're going to use it as a template for future songs. Because I'm using the same drums, the same method of recording for guitars, all that. So there's no point in starting from scratch. We're going to use this as a template and just swap out these tracks one by one. And then, of course, make changes where needed. And that's really about it. Like I said, I'm out of time for today to really, finish the song. And on top of that, I kind of want to save it as like a surprise, don't want to spoil the whole thing finished. So I will have it finished within the next week and post it for you guys to check out. And I'll go ahead and play it one more time for y'all. All the way through. So this is the new song we've been working on today, if anybody new is joining. And still in the early stages as far as the drums and overall, polish of it. like I said, during this part, I'm gonna throw in some synths, so it's kind of empty right now. But this is Stephen Slate drums. This is my kit that I've set up. I'm only using 3 toms, and yeah. And there you have it, an unfinished but coming along version of the song, "Venture the Gateway." And this where I actually got this name is because this breakdown part right here. That breakdown part right there was a little snippet I put on SoundCloud. I forgot I turned my mic down. So that part right there, that breakdown, I put it as a little snippet on SoundCloud, and it was called Gateway, and it had more of like a spacey phaser vibe on it. I'm gonna actually play what it originally sounded like. By the way, follow me on SoundCloud. So I've used that here, and obviously changed it up a little bit. Not right there. That's the middle of it. It's right here. And there you have it. I once again forgot to turn my mic back up, but there you have it. So yeah, and that really concludes today's stream, and I hope you guys that have been joining me have enjoyed it, and maybe even learned a thing or two for music production. And feel free to, if you have any questions about my process or anything that wasn't really answered in this, you can shoot me an email or fill out a contact form on my website, beyonderise.com. I do have tones available to download for free for anybody using the Line 6 Pod UX2 or the Pod HD 500 or 500X. Those are free to download. There's some bass tones. There's a bass tone and some different guitar tones that you can maybe find useful. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for joining and making this just making it here for this, and really for the feedback on Facebook. As far as I probably wouldn't have done this if the feedback on the idea of it wasn't so great on Facebook, and so that's been awesome. Anyway, guys, until next time, I maybe do some of these more in the future. We'll see. Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.